Welcome to Take It from the Iron Woman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Iron Woman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Iron Woman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. This podcast is being sponsored by Get Loopy. On episode 41, you can hear the story of Isabel, the co-founder and CEO. Get Loopy, get a 20% discount off your first order. GetLoopy.com. Hello and welcome. Take it from the Iron Woman. Again, we have a very special guest. Tonight we have Rachel with us. Rachel and I know each other from running. Where else would we meet? Probably, right? So, Rachel, introduce yourself a little bit. Who is Rachel who will join us on this episode?
Yeah, hi, Susan. Hi, everyone. This is Rachel Laiserin. Thanks so much for having me. I am so excited to talk to you. In terms of introducing myself, I have been running for more than 20 years, actually, maybe closer to 30 years at this point. And I've done a total of 8 marathons, but they've been spread out over a really long time. Sometimes I've run more seriously for time, sometimes just for fun, but I've kind of stuck with it for the whole time. And it's, been an important part of my life, and that's how we met. Yeah, so I'm excited to be here.
Cool. 8 marathons. That's a lot. And where have they been?
So I live in New York City, and so I've run 5 New York City marathons, and I've also done Chicago, the Marine Corps Marathon, and the Jersey Shore Marathon.
And which one is your favorite?
It's a hard question. It's such a hard question. I think I have 2 favorites. Sorry, that's not fair, probably. It's cheating, but
it is.
But it's hard not to say New York, because New York's an amazing marathon. It's an amazing experience. Every time I did it, there was just always such highlights. The crowd's amazing. It's my hometown, and I don't know, it just feels like such a community, huge, like empowering, inspirational, fun event. And so I love that. And then the other race that I really loved was Chicago. I had done Chicago in 2018, and I hadn't done a marathon for many years right before that. I think it had been like 9 years since I'd done a marathon. And so I had a really good training cycle coming back, and I was just excited to be back doing a marathon. And then Chicago was a really well organized race, and the crowds were amazing. And I just had such a good day, and I felt like the city, it was great to see the city, and I felt like the city came out to support all the runners. And it was, for me, I think a lot of times, right, these races are about you and the day you have. And for me, it was just great to get back out there after having kind of a long break and having a good day and running almost the same time I'd run, almost 10 years before. And so I love Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago is fun, and it's somewhat all flat, right? We know that, except maybe like a little hill. But I know when you think you're done, then there is this little hill. Yeah, that feels like Mount Everest. I've done it before too. Yeah, I'm actually impressed that you say you had the same time. Then, if you had an 8-year gap, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah. I was really happy. Like I said, I lucked out that I had a really good training cycle. I'd worked hard. I wasn't really going for time. I said, you know what, I just want to finish. I just want to do one again. But it was a flat course. The weather, the temperature was good. It did rain a little bit, but the temperature was good. And, I was happy. I was really happy. I mean, in some ways, I don't know. In some ways, sometimes I have my best times when I'm not racing for time.
Yeah.
And
there
I
is
think that
no
was one of those
pressure,
things.
I think,
No,
right? There is
right.
no
Yeah.
pressure because you just go and have fun. And certainly Chicago is a very nice course, and the ambiance is nice, and it's well organized. And the New York obviously is the marathon, right? So we're kind of like jaded. If you live in New York City, certainly the best event that we have here.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, you know, when I did Chicago, I remember a lot of people said, how come you're doing Chicago and not New York this year? And I don't know, in my head, New York had all these like logistical hurdles. You know, you have to take a bus really early out to Staten Island, and you have to wait for 2 hours in the village before you start. And I thought, oh, I don't want to deal with all that logistics. I want to kind of show up at the start, and you know, Chicago's much easier that way. You know, but I think that was just really in my head. And then when I did New York again last year, none of that bothered me whatsoever. I mean, I had fun on the bus. It was like totally flew by in the village waiting to start. And then once I got on the course, I remembered how amazing, you know, from going over the Verrazano Bridge and all the neighborhoods and the crowds. And I said, oh, right, this is why New York's amazing.
I think it makes, just once you're there in the village, you forget the time, right? So you go and enjoy, and it's that marathon buck that hits you. And then the Verrazano Bridge certainly is an exciting moment. And I know we met each other. We were both running coaches. How many years have you done that?
So I actually coached for about 15 years. I mean, when, you know, with the organization, we were working with New York Roadrunners together. And I was with them for about 15 years. And it's funny, you know, I came to it very accidentally. You know, I was running myself. I was training for marathons myself. I started working first with little kids, actually coaching a track and field program. And then I kind of graduated to, you know, coaching the adult program. And then I never imagined that would turn into, you know, what it did, which was, you know, 15 years. Some, you know, there were some periods where I was doing it 3 days a week, you know, much more often, 2 days a week. You know, I did it through both my pregnancies and through injuries, and, you know, coach people from whether it's beginners who are working up to a 20-minute run, you know, at a time over 10 weeks, to marathoners and people trying to work on time goals. And it was nice. I mean, I loved that it just allowed me, you know, wherever I was in my life, to keep running and keeping engaged and keep working with people and seeing all of that. And I mean, I remember when I was coaching, when I was really 7 months pregnant and coaching beginners, and I remember feeling like, wow, you know, it's like hard to even get in 3 miles. But the students, you know, would ask me tons of questions. Like, what is it like to, you know, run when you're pregnant? How do you feel? And what does the doctor say? And I thought, what a gift it was that I could do this just not for myself, but, you know, serve as a role model and be educating people, and, you know, encourage me to learn more about running and pregnancy, and, you know, learn for myself, but also to be kind of a good coach. And so it was just coaching, you know, it gave me so much more, you know, not just running itself, but so much more.
And I think also meeting different people. I mean, we met running. I don't think we would have ever met in our lives if we were professionally. So I think that's the amazing part of the running. And I remember last year, I think you told me you saw a big poster of, what is her name? Elena at NYU? Or what was her name?
Oh, yeah. Yelena. Yeah. Kovacevic. Oh, yeah. That was so funny. It's totally true. I've met so many people that do, like you said, totally different careers, totally different, even different ages, you know, but really good friends made through that. There's the NYU Tandon School of Engineering, and there's a big, gigantic poster up there. And it says the first woman dean of our school, the Elena Kovacevic. And I was like, wait a second, we used to run together. And we got in touch, and and she works right across the street. And of course, she has this amazing, she's super busy. She's just amazing. But I think of her as just, my running partner. Right? So we used to hang out in Central Park and get pounding miles on the pavement and chatting about all different things. And yeah, kind of a lot of lifelong friends, a lot of different experiences. And I would say even the people that, didn't become lifelong friends, to interacting with when we coach over the period of 10 weeks, right? Because that was our kind of cycle time. And over 10 weeks, you kind of get to know people, and sometimes you'd hear about what they're going through or why they came to running. And I mean, it's really amazing, I think, what running could do. And so, I mean, for some people, it's transformative, right? I mean, women that would come in that, maybe were a little bit older, that grew up before Title IX, before they had access to sports, and said, well, I never thought of myself as an athlete, and here I am training for a marathon. Yeah. Very empowering, very, very empowering.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And you would see sometimes, and how also that, running a marathon could turn into all these other things for people that would really change their lives, right? And that would get new careers or maybe start their own business, and it was all because some kind of confidence they got from going through training for a marathon, or not even a marathon, just training for 10K or getting out there and running and realizing, wow, if I can do this and I'm 50 years old and used to be a couch potato, what else can I do?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, I think we as coaches have met so many wonderful people and have helped many people. We don't even realize how many we touch. I remember one time I picked up the number for the marathon and somebody came and she's like, hello. And I was like, who are you? And I was like, oh, can I introduce you to my husband? And I was like, I didn't even know her, but I must have been her coach, because obviously as a coach, you run ahead of the group and they know you. But if you have 20, 25 people behind you, you cannot know everybody. But she introduced me to her husband and said how wonderful those classes were. So I think we made a huge difference in many people's lives.
I've had similar experiences where, because I still run in Central Park, people will just wave to me and they look kind of familiar to me, but I don't really know from where. And then I think, well, they're probably from those classes. And it's funny because I always think about what it did for me, right? I mean, and how much I got from them and meeting all of them and hearing all their stories. But so it's nice to see every once in a while when someone, someone connects with you and you realize, oh, you made a difference for them as well. And so it's a nice thing.
Since you have been a coach for such a long time and still doing it, what recommendations would you have for somebody who wants to start out or somebody who wants to run a marathon? We all know at the moment all the races are canceled. We all are a little sad. What recommendations would you have for somebody who wants to start?
Well, first of all, it's an interesting time to think about running now. Obviously, the race calendar is pretty much, everything's being canceled. But, it just shows people are so resilient, right? There's a lot of things coming out, right? There are all kinds of virtual races and challenges that people are doing. And it's not the same. In some ways, they're new opportunities. I see people connecting on follow the leaderboard and certain things, and those aren't even always about time, right? Sometimes it's just about, well, can you cover 250 miles this month or something? And even if you're walking, right, no one's caring about the time. It's just like doing the distance. And I mean, for me, in terms of beginners, I always think like not to get overwhelmed with like a gigantic goal. It's great to have goals. If you want to do a marathon, do a marathon. But it's really about getting to a marathon is like getting out there on a regular basis. And first you just have to feel like, okay, I'm just going to go out for a run today, whatever that is. And maybe at the beginning, when you're a beginner, maybe you can't run a mile without walking. And that's okay. But so you just do that. And then, maybe in a few weeks you can make it a mile, and then it can be 2 miles. And it's not, to me, it's like a journey, right? It's train for a marathon in 6 months and great, I'm going to check it off my bucket list and I'll be done with running. I just did that.
Yeah.
I mean, people do that, but to me, it's not the way to do it. I think it can be a lifelong process. And so you have to be patient. And the marathon is all about, well, I'm telling you, you're an Iron woman, but it's all about consistency, right? And so just got to keep getting out there. You have to listen to your body. And if it gets to be too much, you have to pull back. But there's another day and there's another week. And there's even sometimes another race, right? You can think, oh, I'm going to be my first 10K. It's great. I'm going to break, an hour or whatever. And maybe it doesn't happen, but there'll be another one, right? And you never know. And I think that's how I've stayed with running all these years, like injuries. I mean, I've had a lot of injuries, right? Which is probably not ideal, but I figured out, each time I came back. Every single time, I come back and whether it's been a short break or a long break, eventually I get to a point where my body's healthy enough and my mind says, all right, now I'm ready to do this again. And I've been at points where I said, you know what, I'm good. I don't need to run any marathons anymore. Yeah. And then that's how I took that 9-year break. And then I said, all right, you know what, I want to do another marathon, right? And I got a few more in since then. Yeah. I'm signed up for New York this year. We will see if that happens. And if it doesn't happen this year, when we can go back to that racing. But so if that never happens, if I don't do marathons, I'm going to keep running. It's all about consistency. And I do think that for beginners to think of it that way and not it's not just a bucket list thing. It's not something you just check off. It's just something you keep doing. And sometimes you do it more seriously, right? And then sometimes it's just you know what, I'm going to go meet Susan in the park and let's go for a run, Nothing wrong with that.
I think that's very important, the consistency, right? So a lot of people, they just think we put it on the bucket list, let's check it off. And I think for you and me, it's more I always say, you don't want to be around me when I don't run. I'm not happy, I'm grouchy, I don't sleep well, I eat junk food. So these are all the healthy habits that come out of a consistent training. I don't know, I don't do too much speed workout anymore, but for me, it's my quiet time, it's my me time. So it has a healthy effect on me. So I think that's what people sometimes are missing. They just see the medal and maybe the Instagram post or the Facebook post. That is important. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. That's very interesting. And let's hope we can run in November. If not, then there might be another race that we can do together. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Susan.
Nice to hear from Rachel and her experiences with the marathon races. It's impressive to have the same time 8 years after she did another marathon. Why not? What is your time in the marathon? And we also said the time is not that important. It's about finishing. It's about being consistent. And being consistent, take it from the Iron Woman. Every Monday, every Wednesday, we have a podcast coming out. And get the Loopy Bites, 20% off your first order. GetLoopy.com. Thank you for listening. Leave a comment, like us. Take it from the Iron Woman.